Welcome to the Game Professors Podcast, where the students have taken over and we profess our love and hate for all things video games. Welcome. We've been off a week. We're back. Unfortunately, things happened, and it just wasn't feasible to get it done in time. So, rather than give you something subpar, we just moved on to the next week. But we're here, and we're here to entertain, especially with the WoW Gamer Extraordinaire, which I do appreciate that you changed your name to.
I appreciate the fact that it took you till this week to notice it.
Well, it's because normally I'm just looking at your face. But
Fair.
Although it's kind of written on your face too. Anyways, for today, Marathon has passed the starting line, but will it get to the finish line of success? Well, who knows? We'll see. We'll talk about it today. Starfield travels the universe and lands on PlayStation with some new adventures and some new toys. Sandfall Interactive shows that you don't always need the expensive tools on your development expedition. We all wish NVIDIA had an early April Fool's joke, but no, it's just more AI. Jeff Kaplan drops a diva bomb of truth in a new interview, and Krafton's CEO dove way too deep into AI and got lost in the process. Well, technically, he just lost, but we'll get into that as well. First, interesting story for our kind of initial announcements. I love this. I doubt anyone saw this. Most people did not, but it did kind of go a little viral as two entirely unrelated developers decided to have a bundle of their games together. And if you're wondering why, it's because they launched within 48 hours of each other and had the exact same name. So they kind of found each other after they launched, one on the 11th, one on the 13th. The name being Piece by Piece, two very different games, however. And then instead of kind of getting mad at each other or trying to, get to have some legal disputes, figure out who actually got the name, who deserved to have it on launch, or anything like that, they just said, well, it is what it is. How about a bundle of our two games together? And brilliant marketing strategy, because it's a feel-good story, it's fun, gamers win, and they sold a lot more copies than they probably otherwise would have. So winners all around. The first game and again, Piece by Piece, because they're the same name, is a 3D repair shop simulation where players take on a role of a fox who inherits their grandfather's shop, restoring sentimental items for woodland animal neighbors, customizing the shop with furniture, painting items, baking cookies for the community. It's more of a soulful interaction with a low kind of poly image and bright aesthetics. It's got a very positive rating on Steam. And then game 2, more of the actual kind of puzzle of, pieces type name, is a puzzle platformer where the levels themselves are jigsaw pieces. 100 handcrafted levels spread across 12 unique puzzle boxes. Players must rotate, flip, connect pieces of the environment to create a traversable path. It has tactile gameplay optimized for the Steam Deck, which is good for those of you with the handheld out there. This one does seem fairly interesting to me. I would not mind giving this a go, especially if I was traveling and wanted something that I know could run on a Steam Deck or a handheld. That one actually has a 100% positive rating. So both very nicely rated games. The bundle is priced at $18.57, includes both Piece by Pieces, and the developers joked on social media about the naming clash with specifically Neon Polygon's lead developer, suggesting that they should have fired their PR person for missing the chance to call the bundle Picking Up the Pieces. So,
honestly, yeah.
Yep. But either way, could have gone in a completely different path and instead embraced humanity and fun and ended up finding success. So maybe people should do more of that out there, but I just found the story fun and wanted to point it out to bring people's attention to it. Speaking of something not as fun and way less soulful, Meta, aka Facebook, axed their metaverse. So Meta has officially announced that Meta Horizons World, the centerpiece to the virtual reality metaverse, will be completely removed from the VR headsets and transitioned to a mobile-only experience. That is a $90 billion investment, not million. That is a $90 billion investment that has basically been lit on fire and has gone up in smoke.
These companies have too much money.
Like when you can just $90 billion for this?
Have these companies never heard of the sunk cost fallacy? Because I
don't know, man.
I don't know about you, but if I had put $90 billion into something, first off, I'd be in a lot of debt. Secondly, I would be.
I want to know what bank gave you the last $1 billion, right?
Right.
that was a bank that did not do their research on you.
True. But that's just so much to put into something that you just scrap on a whim.
I mean, unless this actually becomes kind of literally the next Facebook, right? Where metaverse is the thing that everybody moves to, which, given how virtual headsets currently exist, is not happening. It was never going to happen. I loved my Valve Index when I had it. I want a Steam frame. But it was never going to be the mainstream thing. You know, people weren't going to put on these big bulky headsets in mass in public to experience the metaverse. It was never going to happen that way. And to be clear here, the $90 billion isn't necessarily just like straight up investment. It's basically accumulated operating losses since 2020. Specifically in 2025 alone, they lost $19.2 billion.
It's insane.
So, yeah. It's basically Meta/Facebook is relabeling 2026 as the year of renewed focus, shifting its investment away from bulky headsets towards AI-powered wearables and augmented reality, aka the thing that is taking off, which is basically the AR VR glasses. You're seeing like Asus partnering with Xreal. They're the kind of slightly bulky looking sunglasses that have 2 micro OLEDs in them, so you get kind of like a virtual screen in front of you. Nearly as good as actual VR headsets for immersion, but in terms of just like, I want a big giant screen and I'm sitting on a plane, it's absolutely amazing for that. I actually turned one of my friends on to it who travels a lot for his work and says he will not go back. It's been an amazing experience.
That's fair.
That's what Meta is also shifting to. They did close and shutter a few studios behind some kind of more popular VR hits. I'm not really going to get into it, but it ends up being roughly 1,000 to 1,500 employees that were laid off. And it admits that a lot of discovery and kind of people coming in is coming from mobile phones, which again is a big shocker because guess what people have with them on the go is a phone and not a mobile headset. Now, that might change with AR glasses and VR glasses, but not for the headsets. It's just never going to happen that way. Yeah, so I wish I could just have $90 billion to lose over 5 years, because that means that I have way more money than that. But
True.
But I don't. Interestingly enough, though, we do have some fun numbers, because I always like interesting stats from Steam. So over 2025, Steam delivered 100 exabytes of data. That is an actual unit of measurement for people who don't know. And it is above petabyte, which is also above terabyte. So you're talking thousands, or a couple thousand-fold increase, 1,000-fold and then 1,000-fold increase of data storage there, which is kind of an inconceivable amount for most people, I would say. Just to kind of give you an idea of where that lands, I didn't put it in here, but on average, it would take 250,000 regular home PCs to equal 1 petabyte, and an exabyte is obviously 1,000 petabytes. So,
yeah, wouldn't it be? It's 100 million, right? 100 million terabytes.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
That's a lot.
Yep. 250,000 home PCs times another 1,000. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of storage, and they delivered it. That is a 25% increase over 2024. This is why people keep talking about PC gaming kind of becoming the mainstream platform. It's why Capcom's shifting to it. It's also why the AI kind of effect is kind of a huge problem for that barrier to entry for a lot of gamers, because if it becomes too expensive, then it's not necessarily going to grow. The numbers break down to specifically 274 petabytes per day, and that's 11.42 petabytes per hour, which is roughly 1,420 1 terabyte hard drives being filled every hour. Dude, just the data center delivery alone is insane to me.
There's got to be more than one.
Well, obviously, yeah, it's not gonna. There's no way it can be one massive centralized location.
Yeah.
But just that is insane. That's such a huge amount of data being transferred.
It really is.
I mean, you're like what? Almost 200,000 gigs per minute. So like what? Like
Insane.
a couple Call of Duty games?
Oh god. Just a couple.
Just a few.
Yeah, 4 or 5 max.
I mean, yeah. I mean, realistically nowadays. Oh man. But that was just some interesting kind of intros articles. I think we'll get into some recent releases in lab work. Alrighty. Specifically, we're going to start off with the thing that came out when we skipped a week, which was Marathon. And love it or hate it, it is looking like financially it is not going to be a success for Bungie. Now, it is kind of achieving some okay-ish numbers, and I do say okay-ish because if it was a AA or indie game, it would probably be considered at least break even, if not somewhat of a profit. It started off with 88,000 players on its launch, which was about 60,000 less than the Server Slam test that they had, but Server Slam was free versus the paid game. As of 2 weeks later, they're kind of hitting a high of 57,000 and lows of 25,000. And they kind of had to compete with an indie game. So a lot of people compared their numbers to Slay the Spire 2, which ended up hitting 570,000, which is insane numbers for that game. Good for them. They seem like good people, good developers, and deserve the success. But it is kind of obviously a drastic difference when you look at a supposedly AAA multiplayer game from a prominent studio, which only gets a tenth of those numbers. Now, to be fair, these are daily numbers versus all-time high, so it's a little bit of a apple-oranges kind of comparison, but it is kind of insane.
I mean, even then, if you looked at all-time high versus all-time high, 88,000 was Marathon's peak. It doesn't come close.
True. Yeah, you're not wrong. That's still, it's still a fraction, essentially. Paul Tassi, which is an industry insider, confirmed that Steam is the primary platform for the game. So people who are fans of Marathon who were hoping that it had larger numbers on console that could offset the supposedly low to mid numbers on PC are going to be supportedly disappointed, because Steam is the primary platform at which people are playing it. And Paul Tassi did get that from Bungie insiders, so reputable kind of reporter, supposedly reputable source. Seems like it should be true. The game does hold a very positive rating on Steam, and from the people that have, I'm going to say, stuck with it, not necessarily played it, stuck with it, have said that they have enjoyed it. There are kind of a lot of common complaints about congested UI, and they have recently changed it, so we'll see if it sticks, but it initially had very high microtransactions for basically reshades of skins, color changes type things, which is unfortunate. And an interesting point to note that Bungie did request for major outlets to delay their final reviews until the end of March, which, like, I get giving a multiplayer game a few days to be tested thoroughly, because in a small player pool on a multiplayer only game, it's not really that fair. But a full month? That seems ridiculous to me. Like, after a week, you should be able to say definitively whether or not a multiplayer game is fun to play or not. You may not have experienced everything, especially in a game that's got a lot of grind, but I feel like if you can't review the game within a week, when that's all you're doing reviewing, not a 9 to 5 job and you're playing 2 hours a night,
Right.
like, I don't know, man. That just seems like you're just asking for the reviews to be delayed so you can get your sales.
Yeah, basically. Like, no, don't delay your reviews. Put them out when you want to instead of catering to the developers and their company. Not even just the developers, because really the developers are like, I don't know, I made a game, man. But it's the company, it's the publishing aspects that are like, no, we want it to sell as much as possible. The devs do too, but at the same time, they want honest reviews.
Yeah. And again, I'm not for putting a review out of a multiplayer only game 1 hour. I do like when a lot of outlets do first impression type stuff. I think that's fine. But yeah, like a month is way too long.
I think that it's not doing bad. That's the thing. Like, who do you want to compete with, right? Who are you trying to compete with this game? Obviously, the answer is everybody, but that's not realistic, right? You're never going to compete with Counter-Strike. It's just not going to happen. If you wanted to try and compete with Arc Raiders, that's understandable, considering that's literally the same type of game, right? Minus the fact that, there's the Arc in Arc Raiders. But realistically, if we want to just look at other shooters that are out there, the thing that they're comparing with the most at the moment is Team Fortress 2.
True. However, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, but Battlefield 6, which is suffering, has the same 24-hour peak.
That's fair.
Right now.
Yeah.
So you're talking about a game that came out months and months ago that is suffering heavy player retention problems. Even though it did start at, over 700,000, right now, 2 weeks after release, Bungie is competing with a game in which its developers are being laid off. So, and I think that's the problem here, right? Because I mentioned if this was a AA studio or an indie studio, this would either be considered a wash or a success, right? But it's not. So internal reports from Bungie indicated that Marathon would need to be amongst the top 5 selling games of this year for success. What does that mean? It looks like the game costs upward, from kind of rumors and reports, upwards of $250 million to develop. So it would need to reach $10 to $12 million in sales to fully break even.
I just want to know where that money went. Because it doesn't feel like it went into the game.
No, especially because they just, got their art assets from somebody online.
Right. Yup.
That lawsuit aside, I don't know. I don't know where the money went. I don't understand how this cost $250 million to develop. Now, again, that's not any sort of official number, but the the internal reports of top 5% selling game does put its sales numbers at 10 to 12 million, which means, you kind of can extrapolate that it probably cost around 250 million to make.
Yeah. I mean, I will say it has a good rating.
Yeah, it does. People who have stuck with it on Steam seem to like it.
Yeah, I mean, it has, what is this, almost 34,000 reviews in total. 86.5% of them are positive.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
No, it's not.
But the problem is that they're just not hitting the high numbers because it's not the game people wanted. It's not the game people are looking to play right now.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, because extraction shooters they've been kind of beaten to death at this point.
Yeah, I mean, ask Battlefield at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to beat this dead horse, but again, if they spent $250 million on Destiny 3, I guarantee you this number would be probably
astronomically higher.
Yeah, I was going to say probably around Slay the Spire 2 numbers, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
But That's not what
But
it
yeah,
is.
they wanted to make a whole new IP.
Man. Yeah. It's just like this whole thing is so we'll get into the I don't know if we'll actually mention this, but one of the things that Jeff Kaplan said in his really long interview, or not in the interview, he said it shortly after it on a live stream where he was streaming his new game, where he talks about how people who should just shut the F up who are rooting for the demise of a game. So I'm not rooting for the demise of a game specifically. I don't necessarily want the game itself to fail. I don't want any hardship to come to the people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into a game. I do want I do want studios to suffer setbacks to learn lessons. And if that means that a game fails, then so be it. I'm not saying that you can't do something new, especially if you have enough success where you have kind of an offshoot that's working on a separate game. But when you're struggling already and you've already done something that's good that people want more of, why are you not delivering more of that thing? And again, I'm not talking yearly releases. Fuck that stuff. But the Destiny 2 came out how long ago? So like, it's time. Oh man. So that's my take on it. Just to kind of give you an idea of, yeah, it's probably bad. Bungie actually had 2 GDC panels that they were supposed to be doing, and they canceled both of them. So first one of them was high performance networking and scaling automated testing, specifically for Marathon, and they were just canceled. No reason given. No one knows why. And I think if your game's struggling and you're worried about PR and people asking questions, this is probably what you do.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in the long run. It does look like it's stabilized, but we are only 2 weeks in, so we'll see if it holds those numbers or if eventually people start dropping off like flies. I'm not sure this is going to be the same type of Arc Raider situation where it actually holds higher numbers than it had at launch for months.
Yeah.
But who knows?
I highly
could
doubt
be surprised. Speaking of another game that struggled at launch, Starfield is coming out for the PlayStation, along with enhancements, updates, and DLC for all platforms. So there's a lot of new content and new updates for people to enjoy. Did you play Starfield when it came out?
Did play the original, yeah.
It had promise.
Did. I agree. Because eventually it just felt so samey.
So I think it had the problem that a lot of games struggle with, is that it pissed away a lot of its early development time, and then they got to the point where they had invested so much money that they had to get something out the door, and that something was absolutely subpar. I think you look at Cyberpunk 2027. Not 2027. Ha 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 ha. The Cyberpunk comes out next year. Cyberpunk 2077. And while there were a lot of good things in that game that I think started, especially on a functional PC version, started at a higher position than Starfield did, you can see a lot of the same things where things were half-baked, they weren't fully thought out, there were a lot of problems, there were design issues. I mean, not being able to have a map to see where the hell I'm going in one of the cities was so frustrating to try to just navigate around for the first few times.
Yeah, and you can't even make the argument that, like, it doesn't fit the story in any way, shape, or form. Like, the technology is off the charts. If you don't have a map, what are you doing?
Bish, right now, you could pull up Google and get maps for popular stadiums. Yep. Internal maps of the stadium.
And malls.
Like, that exists now.
And like entertainment locations, so like zoos, aquariums, stuff like that. You can get all kinds of internal maps.
Yeah, all that stuff exists right now. So saying that it's doesn't fit the universe is ridiculous. And even then, put up signs. Put them everywhere. Make sure that I can't walk 10 feet without seeing a direction sign. I don't care. There's multiple ways that you can do it organically if you didn't want to go the easy tech route, which you should have. But there are plenty of other ways. You can also do color-coordinated theming. So certain sections are color-coordinated themes, so you can recognize, oh yeah, something is in this section. There's all kinds of different stuff that they just didn't do. But that's just a nitpicky version of the emptiness that the game had. So let's get into some of the updates, because we'll come back to some of the complaints that I had for the game. So the update, the thing that's free to every player, interplanetary flight, which for a game called Starfield, where you had a spaceship, you didn't get to actually fly around in space, which was annoying, because it all was cutscene travel, right? So they've actually added flight where players can now manual fly between planets. And if they so choose and they don't want to deal with that, there is a cruise mode, so you just engage it and it goes. That includes a loading screen. So, like, it blurs the screen a bit. I assume some sort of sci-fi effect with lights going by. I haven't seen it specifically because it's not out yet. But as you're loading in or out of a place, it'll kind of blur what's around you before you get to the loaded area, which is fine. I mean, No Man's Sky had the exact same visual type of trick, where as you're going down, things have like almost no details or anything, and there's clouds and stuff, and then you get through that and now you can see things. So something that the game should have had at the start. There's more interdictions. So for things on planets or out in space, now that you can space travel, there's actually things that are going to happen instead of them being empty. Specifically, planets are going to have more points of interest. That was one of the biggest things to me. Like, at a Bethesda game, I'm supposed to be able to explore and find stuff. Like, you talk about the Fallout games coming across random things, interesting things, just something that some intern set up in the middle of the open, which is hilarious. Like, I'm supposed to be able to find that type of stuff, and I go exploring on these planets, and there's nothing. It's barren, and you can just get lost. And when the game came out, it was on foot. So there wasn't like
God.
I don't know if you remember that, but yeah, there wasn't the vehicle, so it also took forever. Now they updated that way more recently than this, but that was one of the problems at launch. There was a lot of promise for the game. It could have been way better, but it needed more focus early on in development, and if not, from where it was, wow, shocker, it clearly needed like 3 more years. But I mean, everything that I'm seeing here looks good. The expansion looks like it's going to be super interesting. They're adding, quote unquote, a lost faction. So the expansion is Terran Armada for $10. And if you are a premium purchaser, which is that extra super duper price that all games now have, you get it automatically. It focuses on a lost faction. People you can go find. There's a repairable robot companion with swappable personality settings, which seems like a very Bethesda thing. Supposedly it has a flirty setting. Like, this is all kinds of fun stuff that would have been great in the game initially. Or if the game was good, would have been great in like a first DLC.
Right.
New Radiant Quest system involving tactical strikes against robot enemy outposts. Just seems like, again, something that the game probably should have had, because this seems like filler gameplay mechanic type of stuff. Weapons and gear in the expansion are more grounded and have a more kind of NASA punk tactical military kind of futuristic look. I mean, there's a few other things. I don't really feel like I need to get more into it. Neither of us were really like super big on this game, but there's other new
you
game
wanted
plus.
to be.
I did. I know. I did too. Fallout. I know people love Fallout New Vegas, and I love Fallout New Vegas, but for me personally, Fallout 3 was my first Fallout experience, and I really loved the setting of Fallout 3 being in DC. So I personally enjoyed that one more than New Vegas, although New Vegas is obviously absolutely fantastic. New World Blues is one of my favorite DLC packs of any game of all time. So there was a lot of good stuff that I was looking forward to in Starfield. I was like, gosh, great. If they give me Fallout stuff in space, I'm absolutely on board. And obviously, I've talked about I'm not really a big fantasy guy, but I played Skyrim. Skyrim was good, and obviously, Skyrim is the game that will never die. It just keeps getting updates forever until the end of time.
Except for bug fixes. They don't do those.
Well, no, that's what they got the community for.
God, that's so accurate.
Oh, man. But yeah, so there's other improvements that I haven't mentioned. If you wanted to love Starfield and want an excuse to get back into it, here's your excuse. But it looks like you're gonna, if you don't already have the premium version, you're gonna want the DLC version because it adds a whole bunch of cool stuff. And if you're a PlayStation user that never played it, this is probably a good chance to get into it. It looks like it's finally going to be good. And thankfully it is. I hate that I have to say this now. Thankfully it's only $50.
Right.
As opposed to 60, 70, or even potentially 80. So, yeah. Go out there. If you're a PlayStation person, go have fun. Let's get into shop class because there are some interesting things to talk about. So we're heading down to shop class, taking a look at some tech tools, specifically at GDC. Sandfall Interactive, aka Expedition 33 developers, revealed quite an interesting kind of behind the scenes truth, which is that 95% of the game systems were built using Unreal Engine's blueprints rather than traditional C++.
Honestly, that's not really surprising to me. It's kind of easy to be able to do that in that type of game. And the blueprint system in UE5, I don't know if you've ever used it. I have. It's quite nice, but at the same time, I mean, it's still not good enough for like a AAA system, right? If that's what you're trying to make, you'll never ever be able to match that.
I mean, to be fair though, we did just talk about Bethesda. So can AAA game companies make AAA games?
No, not in my experience. No.
Anyways, you were gonna say.
But like, I don't think that Expedition 33 was ever intending to combat or to face other AAA games, right?
No, that was not. They were not intending to compete necessarily with the big boys.
No, not at all. They absolutely were not. But the fact of the matter is that we're absolutely going to talk about this a bit more. But artist creativity goes a hell of a long way.
Yes.
All you have to do is just use the tools that are at your disposal in a creative and, useful way. And all of a sudden, you have a good game.
And I think that's the big thing here, right? Is you're focusing on the game itself. You're focusing on your design direction, what you want for the gameplay to be, and what you want the player to experience, and then going from there. Because, so specifically, this was a March 9th talk called Delivering a Wild Scope of Features and Content When You Have Only 4 Programmers, as the CTO revealed that they only had, obviously as the title implies, 4 programmers. So we're not saying you don't need anybody, but what we are saying is that if you're building within your means, because we've talked about this before for Expedition 33, if you're building a game within your means and you're focused on what you're doing, there are plenty of tools out there that exist for you to make that game. And if it doesn't fit perfectly, you can have a small programming team that can tweak and make the small changes that you need while using the larger tools that are available to you. Because they were smart about how they built their game. And I think that's what a lot of developers miss on.
Definitely. Well, and like when it comes to programmers especially, in my opinion, and obviously there's diminishing returns on this, but like less is more, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like if you have systems that are interacting with one another constantly, all of your programmers who are, creating anything related to that they need to actually understand what's happening, right? In all of those scripts. So if you have 50 different programmers and programmers 1 through 5 are working on one system, and programmers 45 through 50 are working on a completely different system, but they at some point interact with each other. Well, now you've got 5 different programmers on each side of the line that have no idea what's happening with the thing that they're trying to integrate with. And it's rough.
Code competing with
I
code.
see it. Exactly. You see it a lot in World of Warcraft because of how big that game is and because of how many things interact with how many other things. But like when you're looking at things like blueprints, yes, they're not amazing in comparison to just like C++, right? Because C++ is considered the fastest coding language in the industry and is significantly more optimized for complex math. But at the exact same time, point to me the complex math in E33. Because like I'm not seeing it, man. They're just numbers. It's just addition. The most that you're getting is like a bit of multiplication here and there. That's the extent of
those damage
where
numbers can get pretty high.
Yeah, but again, that's just multiplication.
I mean, that's complex math for some.
We're not talking about the lowest common denominator.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
What Blueprints really pushed forward in the gaming industry was allowing people who don't have the ability to like learn those languages or just didn't learn those languages. It gives them the ability to code. It's a visual system. And to be honest with you, there is another like small game engine type deal that is actually used to teach children to code now, that Blueprints is basically based off of, which is hilarious because it's also how it's one of the main things that I was taught on when I was going to school for game development. But yeah, so like that visual representation is really important for someone who can understand the logic, but just doesn't understand the syntax. Now, on the other hand, a lot of the developers at GDC noted that, while this worked for a small team, it's incredibly difficult for a massive AAA studio, which is exactly what I said. Because blueprints are significantly harder to version control. And when you have a ton of people working on the same exact file over and over and over again, it doesn't update quickly enough.
Oh, yeah, that would cause problems.
So if you make a branch off of this, off of like one action, but someone else also made a branch off of that action, then it's going to corrupt. It's not a fun time.
That's fair.
That's just like some of the things that I've heard about it. Whereas like text-based, I don't know if you've ever worked in like, I know you have. We're staring at a Google Doc. Like I can start typing something in here, which you literally just did to me 5 minutes ago. And
what?
Like,
I don't know what
I
you're
can
talking
see it instantly, right?
Yeah.
Which you can do the same thing in a text-based IDE. So if that's the extent of it, right, you're actually using text-based IDE.
Well, and for anybody else out there, famously in the workplace, Teams, right? Working on Teams files that are, sure, but for the regular people in the world, Haru, if you're updating a Teams file on Teams where it's on the cloud, someone will see that update.
Shout out to our regular people, I guess.
Well, just saying, regular people exist.
I know. I haven't met any.
I counter that you just don't remember them.
That's honestly fair. But anyway, so like, yeah, blueprints, they're incredibly efficient. They're incredibly fast. You can do all kinds of things very quickly without having to deal with the tippity-typity crap, right? You don't have to write 2,000 lines of code to get the effect that you're looking for. You can just drag and drop like 15 actions in blueprints and call it a day. Right?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
But again, like when you get into AAA studio or AAA development, where those games tend to be very large, they tend to have a lot of things interacting with other things. Like, I can't think of a single thing in Expedition 33 that interacted in like a unique way, right? It was a very cut and dry system mechanically. Like, yes, you had your little, I can't even remember what the hell they're called. It's been too long now. What was it? Luminosities or whatever the crap. That just like, you know, they were just number changers. That's all they were. Right? They weren't anything overly impressive or overly complex.
Well,
and
I mean, that's all buffs and debuffs are multipliers, right?
Yes, but they can also change the way that things act. They can change the way that math works sometimes, depending on the type of buff and stuff.
Math is math.
Math is math, yes, but what I'm talking about is
I get you.
Like multiplicative versus additive, right? And if there's a certain buff that, you know, changes the scaling of something to be multiplicative instead of additive, then all of a sudden you've changed math, right? You've changed the math on that ability. And how the things interact and what's calculated first and what's calculated last is a really big deal in like theory crafting and coding.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because like if you multiply everything, right, you give all the percentage boosts before the additive boosts, it's not really helpful.
No.
Right? You kind of just, it's kind of pointless.
But to your point, it was all put together really well, and the story was good, and
Yes.
things worked, and the gameplay loop was fun. That was the point. It didn't do anything insane, but everything it did was put together in a very nice package, right? It's like not having some sort of Italian dish for a long time, right? You know what it is. You've had it before. Then you come back and someone just gives you the dish that, you know, it doesn't do anything crazy, right? But man, was it put together perfectly.
I find it hilarious that you used an Italian dish for a French studio.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway.
Like, you had so many other options. Anyways.
Yeah, because all the French dishes are absolutely straightforward and known for their simplicity. Okay.
Anyways.
All right.
One more thing. The artists for E33 were amazing. They had incredible designs, they had incredible creativity, and they were given that freedom, which is what I think made that game excel. Whereas the programmers were basically just told, make this work, please. Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
and that's their job. Yeah, exactly. That's their job. That's what programmers are designed to do. And a lot of us, I say us because I am a programmer, a lot of us work best when given a goal and, you know.
Hey, fix this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Fix this thing. Make this thing do this.
I couldn't figure it out. Make it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, those artists might be in trouble as NVIDIA has announced DLSS 5, which I'm going to generously refer to as the generative DLSS update. Now, digital super sampling, for people who don't understand, DLSS 4.0 basically uses an AI trained rendering kind of language to predict and fill in pixels from a lower resolution, right? So you're gonna take a resolution, blow up the resolution, and then fill in those mixing pixels with AI. DLSS 4.0 works fantastically. It looks, obviously there are some situations that it still struggles with, but for the most part, especially if you're using the balanced mode, you get a really nice boost in performance without necessarily losing too much in visual degradation with the AI sampling. It looks great. DLSS 4.0 is fantastic. Now, they've gone in a very interesting direction for DLSS 5, which technically, from what I understand, will be for RTX 50 series cards, because they had it running on, and we'll come back to this, 5090s. Which supposedly brings in photorealistic lighting, and I'm going to describe, for anyone who doesn't have a visual, a higher version of textures for the game is the way I'm going to describe it. So if your character has kind of a plainish looking face, you're going to get a more realistic, let's describe it, looking face, where there's more wrinkles on the skin. You know, you can act, it does look more realistic. Is the way I'm generously going to describe it. Now, this article, well, the video was in partnership with Digital Foundry. So Digital Foundry published the first article about DLSS 5. It was highlighted that it's capable of working on standard rasterized games and not just existing ray tracing or path tracing implementations. It's rough. It looks I think the initial reaction and hate on it, and we'll get into why it's justified, I think doesn't address that generally the game, on a surface level at a first glance, does have a more quote-unquote real look to it. Okay? And I'm doing this in air quotes for anyone who can't see. Because I think, especially because they show it running, they show like the game potentially running in real time. It's not really clear, but it looks like the game's running in real time. It does. Like, if someone were to put that out, especially like the Starfield one that they showed off, it looks better. Like, on first look, if you saw this, you would assume it was a visual upgrade to a game. The problem, I think, comes from the fact that it gets into the uncanny valley plasticky look that AI has on realistic generated images, because that's what it is. It's AI generated. Even though it's supposed to do more realistic lighting, it also looks like it struggles with that, and then it does the thing that all AI does, which it guesses. So some things are drastically changed, and you can see how it got to the new thing from the character it was working with, but it's a drastically different look sometimes, and sometimes in the background from some of the images they showed off. Like, it's adding things that didn't exist in the first place, which, I mean, NVIDIA claims that it's the artist and game developer's choice and stuff, and they work with it, but how much can they work with it? So is it just going to guess the whole time and make things look drastically different? How's it going to run in the long run? Is there going to be weird pop in, pop out? Like, I have so many questions and concerns about this.
I do too. Largely because, look, how much of this, like, what are the details on it, right? Like, what do you have to sign a contract for NVIDIA to implement this for you? Does NVIDIA get, full rights to anything that it generates, right? Any of that. Like, at a certain point, does the artist just lose control of their art? Because that's what it's looking like.
Supposedly the artists and game developers are in control of what it does, but
sure, for now.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it's all good questions in the long term.
Well, and the side problem is really that, exactly as you said, how much control? If they run it over, a vertical slice of a game, and they're like, you added like 15 plus objects into the world that don't actually even exist, like you've completely changed what our world is and what it looks like. Is there a way for them to tweak that? Or
yeah, because
is it
in
just
the images
you
they
get
showed
it or
off,
you don't?
and I think like again the Starfield one it kind of fit really well in, but you look at the Resident Evil Requiem one and it looks drastically different. Like
Yes.
especially initially with the female character, which I haven't played the game yet, so apologies I don't know her name. But the female character out on a street, like drastically different look to it.
Yeah. Now, will I say that she looks better? I think it really depends on what you're looking for in that image, right? Because if your goal is to have the most photorealistic thing possible, then yeah, it looks more photorealistic. It still
Agreed.
looks fucking weird,
Yes.
but at the exact same time, it does look more photorealistic. Now, let me throw DLSS 5 over the top of World of Warcraft. Let me know how that goes. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know, Final Fantasy 14.
I mean, ray
would
tracing did a
happen?
lot for like Minecraft. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff in
Yeah.
there that it looks a lot better. But
Bro, DLSS 5 on Minecraft.
can you imagine like the realistic looking creeper, dude?
I was wondering. I was like, what would a creeper actually look
Man,
like?
would the Enderman actually be like things of nightmares?
That'd
What
be
would that
wild.
look like?
But so I'm worried, gameplay wise, right? Mechanics wise, I'm worried about like hitboxes, right? I know that hitboxes they're on a completely separate layer. It's an actual physical box layer.
Well, so before you get into that, okay. So NVIDIA CEO responded to people calling it AI slop because unfortunately, even though it does technically look more photorealistic, which I'm doing in air quotes, it looks like that AI sheen. So that's what people are going with because that's what people are sensitive to, which kind of is weird that they didn't recognize that this would be a problem. But anyways, he stated that DLSS 5 is not a post-processing filter like frame-level AI. He claims that it fuses controllability of the geometry and textures with generative AI. So it looks like it works in conjunction with the actual game itself rather than being applied to the render.
Okay, so that tells me that it needs like key commands and key points, right? That it's targeting. That's even more worrying to me because AAA studios have tried to find 1.5 million different ways to try and cut corners, cut costs constantly. And that just terrifies me more because now they can just tell an artist to make a stick figure and then eventually DLSS 10 will just make it a human.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I saw
that's the route we're going.
Someone joked, but they posted a screenshot of basically untextured, rigged models and said, here's what our base game looks like before DLSS 5, which...
Yeah.
I mean, potentially you're not wrong.
Yeah, if all you have to do is give commands to DLSS 5 and say, give this person medium length hair, blonde, a full face beard, make their nose kind of short, like things like that. If all you're doing is just giving a text explanation
I mean, are you building like basically a PS2 level graphical game?
Yeah.
That now DLSS 5 is just making into a modern game?
Well, and then I wonder, because generative AI, it's not the same every single time.
That is my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Is things shifting in real time
and
it being very noticeable. Because that was the thing that always drove me nuts about DLSS is, and I always go back to this, but specifically Cyberpunk with the holograms, they never looked right because it had a hard time interpolating that. So how is DLSS 5 going to handle something like that as you're walking and moving around? Like that would or just effects. Like what if you've got a big flashy fun sci-fi gun that you're shooting that has these effects that come out, like if it's like a slow moving projectile as you move, like does this look weird and shift?
Right.
Like,
well, that's where the hitbox thing came in, right?
Yeah.
Like, Dark Souls is probably the best example, or Elden Ring, right? What happens if there's some kind of weird issue with DLSS 5 as the boss is swinging their giant ass sword, and all of a sudden the sword just disappears on your fucking screen?
100%.
Right? And then you still get hit by it because the actual hitbox is still there, but generative AI has just deleted the object.
Yep. 100%.
And
I mean, the thing that I can see this being most successful on, because people are way more forgiving, would be indie style games.
Yeah,
like making a high level game with a very small development crew could technically be possible with something like this. And bugs and problems are way more forgivable from a cheaper game from a small studio than EA. So,
but that's who's going to use it.
Concerns. Yeah,
right? It's going to be AAA studios that are going to use it, because 9 times out of 10, indie development studios, yeah, exactly, they're cutting costs, right? Whereas indie development studios, they have passion.
Yep.
And
they want to build something that they normally couldn't do with the resources.
Exactly. And they want something to look a specific way, generally, because of that passion. Imagine DLSS 5 over the top of E33. That would suck.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think, especially because you talked about precision.
Yeah.
Like, how would it deal with those attacks and counters?
Yes. Exactly.
So, yeah, it's definitely a big concern. I could see more story-based games being interesting with this.
Sure.
But
some slow-paced, generally slow burn style games, I think this would be great. But my next concern
Did you turn it on for dispatch?
There's just certain scenes, and you know the ones I'm talking about, that I'm just really curious what the fuck
I don't know
do.
what you're talking about.
But anyways, the thing that I'm really concerned about is 2 different people getting different experiences.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely a possibility.
Like, for example, Resident Evil Requiem, right? That's the way that it looked in their generation of it. But if you're using a slightly weaker card, like what if they're using a 5060, right? Still technically works on it, but because it's slower, because it's less power, is it going to generate things slightly differently because the AI model has to cut corners to be able to make it up?
It's a good question. I honestly don't know. I mean, I think, I don't know. It's a good question. No, I mean, only time will tell. I think this is a dangerous path to go down.
Yes.
I worry about it. People rightfully pointed out that Death Stranding 2, which is coming out on PC here very shortly, which I should have probably put in the releases along with Crimson Desert. Are you going to play Crimson Desert?
I have been thinking about it for a while because I did play Black Desert Online.
Fair. But point being, Death Stranding 2, you look at the fidelity of the characters in those games. Like, they don't need this. If you have a good enough developer,
yeah,
you don't
good enough
need
developer,
this.
Good enough artists.
Yep.
It's just not necessary. And all this will do is allow games like Call of Duty to just cut corners and try and make more profits off of their yearly releases that don't do anything for the actual genre.
Yep. They're going to use this to build out their games and then try to fix things later, and it's just going to be a giant-ass mess.
And, like, look, fix forward is an absolutely good tactic in certain situations. It's not a good tactic in a video game that you're putting out to millions of people.
What about your operating software?
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that one either, Microsoft, but, here we are. I mean, look, majority of Windows 11 features don't even work.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if DLSS 5 can work with Windows 11. Anyways, interestingly enough, apparently nobody told the developers that this was happening. So, according reports from Inside Gaming, developers, technicians, and artists at major studios like Capcom, which Resident Evil Requiem was featured prominently, And Ubisoft found out about the DLSS 5 implementation the same time as the public. So when it was, when that article came out, essentially. Reports claim that there was internal fear within Capcom. The studio allegedly has a stance against generative AI because they already have bad enough press. They don't need the generative AI label as well. So if they end up utilizing something like this, here's the thing. If it's an option, right? Because the whole thing about DLSS is an option, right? It's not enabled by default.
For sure.
So if it's an option, does the game get a generative AI label? If the base game without this option turned on technically doesn't use it? Doesn't use generative AI?
I think the fact of the matter is that if you put in development time to support DLSS 5, because it sounds like that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to put in dev time to be able to support DLSS 5. And I think if you do that, that's development time that you took away from the actual game itself, and therefore, yes.
Yeah.
If it is even at all capable of utilizing DLSS 5, yeah, it just should not. It should have to have that generative AI title or tag.
I think it doesn't require it unless you've used any DLSS 5 in your trailers or screenshots. If you do no marketing with DLSS 5 at all enabled, and it's purely non-generative AI assets and gameplay that you've shown off, then I think you can avoid it. But we all know that's not going to happen. They're going to use it in marketing material.
Yeah, and then not tell you, and then you're going to play it on an AMD or an Intel graphics card, and you're going to be like, this game doesn't look anything like what I saw.
And one last note, because we did bring up about the artist thing and changing things. I do remember that somebody pointed out in the Resident Evil Requiem show off on the street that it looks like there's fog or rain or mist, and then once you go to DLSS 5, it's gone. So to your point of changing the artist's interpretation. So
yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, it's in its early phase, and it was shown off using two 5090s. So apparently to use it, you're going to have to throw back in SLI some $5,000 cards. So you're going to need a $15,000 build to get it at the moment, but supposedly it'll work on regular cards in the future. We'll see how it actually gets there and what actually happens when it comes out. But for now, yeah, most gamers aren't happy. Alrighty, let's get into a free period. Alrighty. So we're in free period specifically. We're going to get into the Jeff Kaplan interview along with the CFO ultimatum. Any initial thoughts, Haru?
Yes, definitely. I have so much to talk about when it comes to Jeff Kaplan. He's obviously I've been a Blizzard fan for a really long time, but touching on some of that AI stuff from before, Demi kind of mentioned this to me the other day because I thought it was really funny. Wouldn't it be really interesting to be able to train an AI voice using our voice?
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that.
I know, but hold on. I'm getting further.
Okay.
Further implementations. Okay. And then take that voice and download it as a file and be able to send it to people. Okay? And then if you're driving along and someone sends you a message, or that person sends you a message and you have their AI file, it could say that message in their voice. Wouldn't that be actually really awesome?
Seems like 10 extra steps to just have a phone call.
Well, yeah, sure, but I don't want to have a phone call all the time. That requires me to speak. I do enough of that at work and on this podcast. It's like
so much extra work to just make a fake phone call that's delayed between each response.
So?
I mean, hey, yes, it's really cool. This just, oh man. I mean, fair. Yeah. I mean, it would be cool. I'm not bashing on it. It's definitely a cool idea. It's just the first thing that popped in my head would be you could have the literal exact same thing in a 30-second phone call that you're trying to replace with a 10-minute text conversation.
You want to know what I find really funny, though?
Okay.
You say that.
Okay.
But car insurance. Okay? I know, I'm going... Sure. I'm way off branch here, but
okay, I'm
car
listening.
insurance.
I'm with you on car insurance.
if you are on a phone call and you have one of those like apps that, try to tell whether or not you're using your phone while driving, if you're using hands-free calling, that counts as using your phone. But if you do hands-free texting, it doesn't. Which is the most idiotic thing ever, because in my opinion, it's actually more distracting, because every single time I get a message, I have to reach over and tap the play message button.
Fair. It is weird. It is dumb. It's one of those dumb loophole law things I can agree with. However,
it's not even a law.
However, what I do want to experience is the first person to get pulled over and their phone reads off a text message in their buddy's voice with no one else in the car while the cop's walking up and has to go, wait, where's the guy? I just heard the guy. Did he get out? Did he run? Where is this guy? I just heard him talking about coming over for a good smoke sesh. Where is he?
For a good smoke sesh. Yep.
Oh, man.
Anyways, on to Jeff Kaplan.
All right, Jeff Kaplan. So in a massive 5-hour interview with Lex, I'm going to go with Fridman, Jeff Kaplan revealed the true reason behind his 2021 departure from Blizzard. So, he apparently was called into the office and then CFO, likely Dennis Durkin, and told that Overwatch had to hit a specific, which obviously ended up being some pretty aggressive revenue targets for 2020 and 2021, which would have been COVID at this time. The CFO explicitly stated that that if the targets were missed, that potentially 1,000 employees would be laid off, and then, quote, that would be on you, end quote, referring to Kaplan, as in them being laid off would be your Jeff Kaplan's fault, which is insane. That is, I mean, we talk about how high-level C-suite people tend to be on a spectrum of psychotic. This is psychotic behavior. Like, this is just not something a normal human would say to another human and believe it, right? Like, I'm making these revenue targets, and if you don't hit them and I fire people, you've essentially fired those people.
It's so stupid. C-suite people are the most insane people in this world. I'll have you guys all know that Plague is having some real struggles with his cat today.
I don't know what you're talking about. You stay over there.
But yeah, no, this is insane. And honestly, I had some inklings that there was some weird crap going on in the background, because Kaplan, every change that he seemed really excited for Overwatch was a really good change. And you could see that kind of diminish as like the 2019, 2020 realm came around, and like his excitement in his videos just kind of died.
It felt like the team in a whole lost a bit of passion, for sure.
Yes, yeah, 100%. And that's what happens when you take people who have passion and you say, now make an exorbitant amount of money off of that passion and destroy your dream just to do it.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is it never even had to be that way. Kaplan noted that the Overwatch League was overpromised to investors and was something that would rival the NFL, which is insane to say considering other sports leagues, actual sports leagues, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, literally can't rival the NFL in the United States. But your gamer E-League game is going to? Like, that's just insane behavior. We are not there as a society yet, not even close. But you're gonna rival the NFL?
Not even remotely.
Like
that, Legends barely does that.
Yeah, but that's on a global scale.
Yeah, and that's on a global scale, exactly. No, and to give some people some examples here, because I noticed that there's not really any numbers in this one. Maybe they are lower. The Overwatch League, the buy-in for those teams on the initial onset was 20 million. That's more than most of the league buy-ins were like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, they had to
League has been doing great for a long time. Yeah, exactly. And then later expansion teams, those fees rose to between 30 and 60 million.
Yeah. I mean, that's insane. And it's because like they promised investors who probably dropped so much money into this to try to force it to happen. And when it didn't, they needed the money from the teams to keep it going. And when they couldn't fully get the money from the teams, they then had to focus on squeezing money out of the players. And that's where leadership forced the development team to focus on. To your point, all the passion surrounding the characters and the lore and the fun and the game itself, you could feel that. 26, was it 2015 or 16? 2016, 17, and 18, right? Those like first, I want to say 3 years, you could really feel that passion. And then this happened and they quote unquote now needed money instead of just letting the game organically exist. Like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume League of Legends went through the same type of archetype where like even Counter-Strike for the longest time didn't have official $1 million tournaments. There wasn't necessarily at the start or even within a year or two, like the official teams and the league and all this kind of stuff. That happened organically as the game continued to be popular and grow.
Correct. The first, I want to say it was like 5 to 10 seasons were not sponsored by Riot Games. Like they were all organic, like similar to like Super Smash Brothers tournaments.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, there were
like,
it was
on
of
that
local
level.
LAN tournaments that people were having initially with the games.
Yeah. Like we didn't have like worlds like we do now. I still remember the very first Worlds because I watched it, but it was not like that back in like season 1 through like 3.
I mean, I don't understand this huge investment that they tried to do. If they wanted this to happen organically, with their involvement to quote unquote force it, all you have to do is offer the prize money and let everything else grow around it. Because you're naturally going to get teams that come together and compete. And so you're talking about an investment. Let's just say they start at $500,000 prize pool, right? You don't even have to go to $1 million. Let's say 2 to 3 tournaments a year where they're going to pay to bring teams in. So they'll pay for whatever top 8 teams that win in an online tournament so that there's no overhead cost, pay for those teams to travel, those teams compete, win a $500,000 tournament. You do that 3 times a year. You're spending $4-5 million in total between costs and prize money, which is insanely way less than any of this investment that they had to do to try to prop this up. That's all you would have had to do. And I'm sure organically it would have been fine. You don't even have to, you can just have the casters. You don't even need the platform because it could just be Twitch. Like, especially at this time. Like, you don't even need to pay to have any sort of streaming service or anything like that. Just have your official Overwatch channel, pay the casters, have it on Twitch. You're good. Have your tie-in skin drops. All of that stuff. That's all you have to do. And they just ruined the game with this. And I didn't realize that behind the scenes, this is really what caused the shift in the culture and focus, which is a bummer.
Well, and it's insane to me too, because show me a first-person shooter game that has taken off in the esports scene. Counter-Strike. That's the only fucking one.
Well, technically Valorant, but that's basically Riot Counter-Strike.
It's basically, exactly. And, lo and behold, Riot does it better again.
Yeah.
Like, Blizzard, catch up.
Technically, there are other shooter tournaments that still exist for other games, but they're just...
Sure.
They're not the same...
They're not
size
massive.
Or viewership, no.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant, right?
Yeah.
Like, the Super Smash Brothers tournaments, they exist, but they're nothing in the realm of Counter-Strike, Valorant, or League of Legends. Right? Like, there are Halo tournaments out there. There are Call of Duty tournaments that are out there. They exist, but they don't come close to the big 3. Or, I guess 4 if you consider Rocket League.
I would
Even
put
Rocket League's pretty
in that realm. It has some pretty good staying power for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely fourth place, but it's there.
Yeah, and yes, again, grown organically. Offer the prize money if you have to. People will prop up around it, and because it's grown organically, you're not responsible for the cost. You don't have to eat any of the cost if the teams fail or pay for the rosters or anything like that.
Yep. Exactly.
Just offer room, board, and travel for the tournament for the top 8 teams, which in the grand scheme of things is not even close to the money that you'll get back in marketing benefits, essentially.
Yeah,
You're good.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, man. But,
trying to say that it would rival the NFL is psychotic behavior.
dude, absolutely. How big is that League of Legends arena?
Which one?
The one that we talked about weeks ago, months ago.
The one that's in South Korea. It's pretty big. I would say it's like how many people can it sit? God. Continue. I'll find the answer.
Fair enough. Well, to compare it, because I already know it's going to be smaller. Like average NFL stadium is like 75,000 people per. So that's just in person attendance per NFL game on any given Sunday, Monday night. 75,000 people showing up in person. And this doesn't even include, obviously, any of the TV viewers or anything like that. And you're going to rival the NFL? Get out.
My Lord. It has a capacity of 450.
I mean, sure. I mean, even then, basketball and hockey arenas are like right under 20K.
Yeah.
Right? Sure. Like, so you're talking over 3 times the amount of people in an NFL stadium than even an NBA game. And you're going to rival the NFL with Overwatch?
Not a chance.
Where other major games that exist around the world don't?
Well, it's the same thought process that Marathon
League of
had.
Legends and League of Legends and Counter-Strike can be played on a potato. And they have the popularity. One of the reasons they have is because they can be played by anyone. Your Overwatch game cannot be played on a potato.
even when it first released, it was still pretty high fidelity, which is good. Don't get me wrong, but that high fidelity doesn't necessarily translate into, high-end professionals.
No, or wider on it. Yeah, it was just the biggest miscalculation. It makes me so sad. Even Kaplan said it was the biggest FU moment of his career. And basically talked about how that was the moment that shattered his belief that he would be a lifelong Blizzard developer. And basically led to him shortly resigning afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, he literally was told how to run his game. And probably was told to make a lot of additional changes to his game that he didn't want to.
Yeah, money-focused changes.
Exactly, money-focused changes, and it honestly, it's probably what killed Overwatch.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, killed the vibe, killed the passion, killed the focus of the game.
It's all incredibly hilarious, too, because I don't know if you know this, but COVID era was one of World of Warcraft's all-time highest revenue years.
It was the gaming industry's revenue years.
Yes!
PC hardware was selling at insane levels in COVID years compared to non-COVID years because that's what people could do, was play games.
Yeah.
So yeah,
exactly.
Across the board, people were playing more games.
Yeah, subscriber numbers for World of Warcraft were estimated to have 1.5x, which is insane.
That is kind of nuts.
I know, I resubscribed during COVID.
I mean, fair.
And that's why I'm here today.
Oh, yeah, so COVID is what brought your addiction back.
It is, actually.
It's probably, actually, COVID is the reason a lot of people had addictions again, I would imagine.
Probably. I can stop whenever, man. Blake.
Right. Anyways, Kaplan founded a new studio. He's got a new game called The Legend of California, where he's live streamed recently, so you can go check it out. It's a handcrafted, voxel-based alternative history survival FPS set in 1800s California, which is apparently reimagined as an island. So go check that out. Kaplan has kept his team small, like basically Expedition 33 size at 34 people, trying to avoid the, quote, corporate rot and the, quote, CFO first mentality, which I wonder where he's saying and feeling that from. So I did put this in here, even though it technically was not a part of the interview, because I think it's appropriate to what we're talking about. But Overwatch recently had a Nier Automata collaboration. The bundle called the Project Yorha Mega Bundle, which launched on Overwatch. Was it Overwatch 1 again? Because
I have no idea,
it was
man.
2, right? And then they dropped the 2, and so now it's just regular Overwatch again. So whatever version of Overwatch currently exists, it launched on that on March 10th. And it's a bunch of Nier Automata themed skins for a bunch of different characters, so it is more than one, but it costs 6,900 Overwatch coins, which is $70. Now, Haru, how much did you buy Nier Automata for? The whole actual Nier Automata game. 2B's adventure. How much did you buy that game for?
Pretty sure I bought it full price, so it was, I want to say $60.
So you spent $10 less for the full game than the Overwatch bundle of skins that the game is based on. Dude, what are we doing? Like, we're literally crapping on here because they're money focused, and you've got a $70 bundle of skins, which is more than the game you're collaborating with when it launched. Not even today.
Get to the next line. Holy crap.
Oh, man.
So, despite the premium price,
okay,
the skins, which I hate with like the skin choices and like where they put them, but it was like 2B Kiriko, A2 Vendetta, and 9's Wu Yang. Right, and there's a couple of others as well, but they don't include any custom voice lines or unique highlight intros, and it's like, what? Goodness. $70, and that's what you're giving me? Insanity.
If it's $70, what's his face? I forget his name, but he's the eccentric guy that develops the game Nier Automata. He better have been asking for $55. Like that better be the reason that this bundle is $70 because he's getting $55 of it. That better be the reason why. It's just, I mean, obviously it's not the case, and this is nuts.
Yeah,
man. So I don't need to really talk about this anymore. I had some interesting stuff, but I'm kind of just ready to move on from this. This is just depressing me.
Yep. Fine by me.
Alrighty, let's go to our last segment, which actually I think we're just going to end on this with a good note, so we'll get into civics and sociology. Alrighty, taking a look at the community and some of the institutions around the gaming industry. Subnautica 2, back in good hands. The rightful owner.
Rightful owner?
Yeah, the rightful owner, i.e. the courts have ordered the reinstatement of the people that Krafton fired. So, March 16th of this year, Vice Chancellor Lori W. Will of the Delaware Chancellery Court issued a ruling in favor of Unknown Worlds founders, aka Subnautica 2 original developers, where the court ordered that Ted Gill be immediately reinstated as CEO of Unknown Worlds. The judge declared that the July 2025 board resolution that ousted the founders as ineffective, and Gill now has been given full authority over Subnautica 2 early access launch and development. And I believe, right down here, and the deadline for the team to earn massive performance payouts was extended to September 15th, 2026, with a potential further extension into March of 2027, pending certain rulings, effectively forcing Krafton to pay up if the game does well. Now, for anyone who wasn't privy to what originally went down, essentially, the developers for Subnautica 2 had written into their contracts under the acquisition of from Krafton that if the game performed and hit certain milestones, which, to be clear here, were not very high milestones, they would get a $250 million bonus. And again, this was baked into the contractual purchase of the studio. The Krafton CEO fired them both, basically meaning that it null and voided their performance bonuses because they were fired. And this was right before the game was originally supposed to release. And then they also delayed the game, making sure that even though they were fired, they couldn't make any argument that they could get the bonuses because they delayed the game past the bonus window. So whichever way you cut it, they were doing their best to avoid paying them money.
Yeah, that's insanity. Remember how we talked about psychotic behavior?
Yeah, this is just more of that.
Yeah, I'm noticing.
Everybody agreed that it was shady and that it clearly was done to not pay them money. And that the $250 million bonus that Krafton agreed to was ridiculous for them to agree to in the first place. They didn't need to go to that amount when they put in the contract. But, I mean, for Unknown Worlds developers, why wouldn't you? If you can ask for it and they say yes, why wouldn't you ask for it?
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Look, if someone wanted to buy something I made and I threw out a ridiculous number and they said, yes, I'm going to go, okay, sure, let me sign right F now. Get this out of the way. It gets even crazier because Krafton CEO, I'm going to show my end. Shangun Kim is how I'm going to pronounce this. Apparently relied on AI to handle his legal proceedings initially and planning. So after Krafton's actual legal team, their actual legal team warned that firing the founders without cause would not void their bonuses, Kim reportedly turned to ChatGPT because, again, it really does kind of seem like AI is the bane of all of our existences, as many cool things as it does, to formulate a takeover strategy named, quote, Project X, end quote. Which, if you're gonna have an edgy teenage name for a plan, I guess Project X kind of fits the bill. Following ChatGPT's advice, Krafton allegedly implemented preemptive framing to paint the founders as abandoning the project to protect the brand's image, which obviously no one believed in any sort of way, because I'm sure, as passionate game developers, they were actually working on their game and getting ready to release it. The judge noted that Kim followed ChatGPT's suggestions to lock down Steam access and prepare systemic materials for legal defense, which the court ultimately found to be a breach of the original acquisition agreement, which is a shocker. And by shocker, I mean no one is surprised that this ridiculousness did not stand up in court.
Right.
Kim admitted during the trial that he had deleted specific ChatGPT logs related to the internal conversations about staff dismissals. Like, I don't know the full court proceedings. I assume they had some evidence that forced him to admit this, but...
or they just got it from the developers of ChatGPT. All that shit's
true
recorded.
Too. Yeah, it's not like that
just because you delete it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like, most likely... somebody on their actual legal team was like, yeah, this is dumb, and I'm not going down for this, and just told them exactly what the hell happened, which gave them the idea, oh, well, let's subpoena ChatGPT records.
Yep.
Done.
We have probable cause and evidence to believe that all of this is recorded because he went and used AI to figure out how to screw us.
Yeah, congratulations. Maybe next time, instead, you should have your own local AI on your own local machine.
Yeah, get your own LLM.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, man. Honestly, I was thinking about that the other day for my taxes. Because, like, just like you said, I don't want to, like, input my taxes and have it saved somewhere with all that personal information on my W-2 and stuff. So the other day, I literally had the thought, I'm like, maybe I should create my own... Maybe I should create my own local to do my taxes for me so I could just input all my tax information just, by PDF scan every year and have it fill out everything for me.
That would be sick. Let me know if you do that.
All right, I'll get right on that.
Perfect, thanks.
My motivation after finishing my taxes is very low, so
I
we'll
believe
see as we get close to next year.
I was gonna say, just remember, next year taxes happen again, and the year after that, and the year after that. I'm pretty sure you have at least another, probably 30 years of work life. That's 30 years of taxes, man.
At least.
You could just create an AI now and never have to worry about it again.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I feel like you're just doing it so that I can give it to you. You just
Correct.
Oh man. Anyways, so the courts were like, this is ridiculous. They're forced Krafton to reinstate Guild's administrative access to the Steam platform and prohibited Krafton from interfering with any launch plans. So, looks like the right guy is back at the helm and steering the ship. And wow, lo and behold, the game that was supposed to come out, now with the guy back at the helm, says that the game will be out in May. So...
Weird. And now what Krafton doesn't realize is that now that you've done all of this, now it's public knowledge and people are going to buy that game just to spite you.
I was going to say, how many people are going to buy a copy just to stick it to a CEO who uses AI to screw over their employees? Like,
I can't even play the Subnautica games. Like, I literally just can't. And I'll probably buy it.
I mean, it's good to support good people. Hey, maybe there'll be a DLSS 5 interpretation to change it from water to space.
I think that would help.
What? You have problems going out in spacesuits?
I don't think that thalassophobia is solely water. I'm pretty sure it's just large open spaces.
Well, do you have a problem with other space games that we've played?
It's never been like that free floating thing, you know?
I mean,
like you're always like in a ship. Except
for Jump Space.
But you have a ship, and I have a weapon. That's my biggest issue with Subnautica. I could easily handle Subnautica if you just gave me an underwater rifle.
Okay, that's fair. I can understand that. That's fair. So game coming out in May. Studio head Steve Papautis confirmed that the game recently passed a major milestone in review. Early access version will launch with multiple story chapters, new biomes, and fresh creatures. Reinstated CEO Ted Gill emphasized an open development approach, returning to the community-driven feedback loop that made the first game a success. All good sounding things, and hopefully the game does well and is good for people.
Well, and I'll be really honest. Subnautica 1 was amazing, and it remains amazing right up until the point that you go into the deep ocean and you get attacked by a leviathan, and you have no ability to defend yourself.
Speaking of which, fans widely circulated a tweet telling Krafton to go play catch with a Reaper Leviathan, reflecting the community's support for the original devs. So, to your point, yeah, the community agrees. The Leviathans are scary, and that Krafton should go play with them. Man. The game supposedly has some highly modular, customizable procedural base building systems that are newly added. I think this is good all around. I like this as a win. This is definitely a good guy, bad guy situation where the good guy definitely came out on top, so we can all feel good about it.
I thoroughly agree. It is, man, this whole thing's freaking ironic. It's so ironic. It's so idiotic that we've talked about a lot of psychotic behavior today.
We have.
Why is that? Why was this entire script full of psychotic behavior?
Because we talked about a lot of C-suite people.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Speaking of leadership causing problems, we actually have a little bit more time, so we could probably finish this last segment that we've alluded to. So unless you have any last-minute comments about Krafton CEO and him trying to play with the Leviathan?
No, but he definitely should.
Definitely should. I hear Fetch is a good game. to play with pets and animals and people. So
Yeah,
I
the Reapers are very nice.
I think it's going to be probably fetch the CEO, but that's a little different. Alrighty. Anyways, let's finish with business and econ. All right, we mentioned it. Battlefield 6 had a lot of success. 7 million copies in the first 3 days, which, keep in mind, is pretty impressive, especially when we've mentioned Marathon earlier, which sold 1 to 2 million copies in the first 10 days. Over 740 or 700,000 people on concurrently when it launched. 20 million units sold in total. Finally outsold Call of Duty, specifically Black Ops 7, which is a big milestone for the franchise, as they hadn't done that in a while. Perfect Storm, good game versus bad game entry in the franchise. Potentially $1.9 billion in net revenue from the game. All good things pointing to a very successful game. Right, Haru? By all metrics, this is a very successful game. Everyone should be proud. Everyone should have a job for next year.
Sure.
Well, the game has dropped heavily, averaging around 60,000 players and potentially even dropping further as more and more multiplayer games come out. Had plenty of struggles with live service engagement. And obviously, there was the news about the Saudi acquisition in the middle that probably definitely turned off a few people, of which I know one of them. Outside of that, it does look like they're laying off a lot of staff across all 4 major studios, including DICE, Criterion, Ripple Effect, and Motive Studios. EA describes the move as a realignment rather than a downsizing. Call it wherever you want to call it. A duck is a duck, a spade is a spade. Claiming the goal is to be better focused on resources, on what matters most to the community following the release of Battlefield 6. Well, what matters most to the community is a good game, the game that they know and love and want to play, and not the crap that you've been trying to peddle after the game's release. And despite the cuts, EA maintains that all 4 studios will remain operational and fully committed to long-term support, because why would they say otherwise? Specifically, live service roadmap, which again is kind of the problem here that people have to begin with. So, what has happened? Kaylor loved the game. It was one of my favorites. Like, I rocked that so much. I played the crap out of it. It was a lot of fun. I had it in one of my top games. Well, RedSec was not good. That was not fun, and a lot of resources went into that. So that ended up being a problem. Heavily focused on monetization too, so a lot of FOMO stuff going on as things were in and out in a short time period and were hard to earn and required a heavy grind. Arc Raiders, obviously a very big game that ended up being very popular for a long time, took a lot of attention away from it. Losing Vince Zampella, which was kind of the FPS savant, the head of the studio that really spearheaded the revival of this series, who ended up passing away in a tragic accident. He's no longer at the helm. And you started to see AI usage, most likely allegedly. Generative AI, there was specifically an example of kind of like an icon that you could equip, which had an M4A1 with 2 barrels. Now, there is an actual I think it's like there is an actual gun that existed with an AR-15 that has 2 barrels. So that is a thing that's actually existed, but it is most likely not that, and was an AI generated image that accidentally had 2 barrels. So you also started seeing AI. So between kind of predatory live service transactions, a focus on RedSec, which people didn't really want. They liked the base game to begin with. Loss of direction, use of AI, and competing very good multiplayer games at the time. Engagement just dropped and tanked.
Wonder if DLSS 5 could have fixed that double barrel.
Yeah, could have added a third.
Yeah. See, perfect.
What's better than 2 bullets at once? 3. Now, keep in mind, you're talking to the gun guy. There was actually a concept for a pistol that had 3 barrels on it, and you actually swapped out the barrels. And the barrels had preloaded rounds into them, where it was bullet, and then powder charge, bullet, powder charge, bullet, powder charge, bullet, powder charge. and the gun fired by sending an electrical signal down the rails of the barrel that ignited the forwardmost charge. So the rounds were actually stacked in the barrels on top of each other, so it would fire literally 3 rounds at once. But that's not what this was.
No. No, this was AI Slop.
Yes, it was, unfortunately.
This is really unfortunate. I know you really liked it, and I'm sad for you.
I know. I think the base game is still fine, but the problem is I've played it. You know?
Right.
Like the DLC maps that they put out weren't very good, weren't very entertaining. They were poor compared to the base maps that were in the game, and so
there are only so many times that you can run face first into the enemy and get sniped in the head and still enjoy it.
True, especially when you're talking about that type of game, and if your friends go play something else, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. So I appreciate you recognize my loss in this, and I thank you for your solidarity. It's a bummer. I wish people. I mean, we're obviously joking about how sad I am, but it's a bummer that people who were on and were a part of making the original launch game a success are probably being let go because of this and won't be there to help make the next game a success, which is a bummer.
It is, honestly. But can't do anything about it, unfortunately.
Nope. That's where we are in the world, though. Live service games are rough. Make games people want and that good games people enjoy. Stop focusing so much on the live service aspect. Give me a good base game.
Oh, man. Look, live service, it's fine. I get it. Not everything needs to be a live service game. I don't know how you make an extraction shooter game not a live service game, to be clear. Like, I think that just is, like, that genre leads to exactly that. But, like, you don't have to make everything a live service.
No.
And it really feels like they're trying to do that with everything. Even single-player games, they're trying to make freaking live service games now. It's so dumb.
Make the game that people will enjoy playing, regardless of whether or not they'll play it long-term or not. Make it within a budget that makes sense. So if you're making a game that people may not return to, then make it with a budget where all you need to make profit is that initial sale, set of sales that you get from the initial run. And outside of that, you can succeed. You think Sandfall Interactive is struggling at the moment? Think they're having a problem? No, they made the correct game within their budget and means, and people liked it, and it was like, now, obviously that game blew up, so that's a little bit of an outlier, but even with, I would imagine, half the sales that they got, it would have still been a tremendous success for them for the budget that they had for the game.
Is it an outlier, though? Like,
I mean,
is it not a testament to exactly what we're saying? Make a good game, make it, thoroughly played out and everything. And
I mean, I
success.
see where you're going for, seeing what you're going for here, and I think they deserved the success that they got because they did make a good game. I do think they exceeded all expectations with sales, so I only caution with making a good game expecting that high level of sales.
Yeah.
But the point being is they made such an efficient game that they could have sold half the copies that they did and it would have still been a tremendous success.
If not even less than that.
Yeah, 100%. Same thing with Arc Raiders. And then you compare that to the game that we've already talked about, Marathon, which potentially has a budget of $250 million and needs to sell 10 to 12 million copies to break even / be a success. What are we doing?
I mean, think of every game series that has done well, okay? God of War, Death Stranding. Death Stranding's kind of weird. Monster Hunter, Call of Duty,
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Exactly. The first Horizon game.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. Hell, all the Baldur's Gates.
Sure.
Right? But
all the Witcher games.
All the Witcher games. They made a good game in an interesting universe, and they didn't break the bank trying to do that. That's all it takes. Like, we sit at home and play games for hours upon hours upon hours as a society. All you have to do is give us something that's not terrible, and we're probably going to buy it and play it. And I say that.
True.
I say that very seriously too, because like I have not met a single other person that plays Shape of Dreams.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I haven't played it yet. It's on my list, but I haven't played it.
I know, and like it has, what is this? It's a little over 6,000 reviews, like 6,200 reviews, at a 94% positive. But like, I've never seen anybody I've never met a single other person who's played it. And then like Slay the Spire, another great example, right? They didn't try and do something excessive or anything like that. They just made a good game and called it a day. It's not even overly amazing when it comes to graphics. There's nothing incredibly complex about its designs, or like its combat system or anything like that. It's a pretty standard game. It's pretty standard deck battler, like roguelike deck battler. So like, I don't know, man. To me, it doesn't really seem that hard. If you have the money, you have the resources to be able to put time and effort into these things, why destroy it by doing all this?
Because chasing the almighty dollar.
Right.
Gambling everything. Instead of planning for an ROI on a realistic ROI, they are gambling is what they are all doing. They're gambling that they're going to be the next Arc Raiders. They're gambling that they're going to be the next Fortnite. That's what they're all looking for. And those games are far and few in between.
Make that gamble all you want. But if you're going to make that gamble in the same way that those companies did, then quit spending $2 billion on a single video game that sells 10,000 copies. Like, because the only way you're making your money back at that point is if you sell it for $1 million each. And ain't no one buying that.
You're not wrong. Unless it's Grand Theft Auto 6. I'll be interested to see.
Fair. See, the thing is though, is that like with the way GTA 5 is, my intention is to wait a good long while for reviews to come out before I buy that game.
Well, you'll see your reviews, because unless you're buying it on console, it'll be at least a year before it comes to PC. So,
God.
Because it is console only first. All right. Well, on that disappointing news, I think that's all we have for today. All right, people, close your books and pack those bags. That's all we have time for today. And just keep in mind that if you're walking on the street and a CEO is nearby, you may want to cross and go to the other side just to be as far away from them as you can. And then while you're at it, flip on DLSS 5 and just don't get lost as you look at the pretty world around you that has drastically changed. Hope you enjoy your time off and look forward to your participation in the next session. Peace.
See ya.